I'm Debbie Travis.
And I'm Tommy Smythe.
And this is Trust Me, I'm a Decorator.
Hello, Debbie.
Hello, Tommy.
I am so excited about this season. Fall, autumn is my favorite time of year. Now, for you, I know that you go from this frantic, hectic, insane sort of retreat season, and you've been doing the car rallies and everything, but then you segue almost immediately into olive harvesting. So I thought it'd be fun to have a Q&A about what's new and notable in the olive oil industry.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's not the reaction I was expecting.
I'm going to turn your hair blue, but first I just wanted to say, yes, we've just literally, our last day of the retreats was yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm now crazy wild because I'm coming back to Canada and I'm going on my book tour, and we're doing a live podcast, which I'm so excited about. And you just went to Jan Arden's last night, and you said it was a really cool venue.
I have to tell you, the venue at Universal is so cool. It is designed by one of my favorite Canadian architectural firms, Super Cool. That's what the firm is called.
That's what they're called.
because they are. There's this incredible art installation at the back that's made from the seat backs of the old chairs that they took out of Massey Hall, the historic venue in Toronto, when they redid it and did the renovation. And they've installed it in this beautiful sort of artistic sculptural thing at one end. And then at the other end is this great stage. So when you and I do our live together there, same venue that Jan did hers in, and ours is end of October, it's going to be such an intimate, amazing, excellent place for this to happen. I'm so thrilled about the venue. So I think for people buying tickets, come and hear us and laugh a lot with us.
And where do you get tickets from? How do you get tickets?
You can go to our website, or you can go to our Instagram account and click through on that.
Okay.
So it is a very beautiful place. It is a really, really cool venue. So come for us, but also come to see the venue. It's really neat. And it's in Liberty Village. So Liberty Village, which is where my office is, has so many great restaurants and so many great bars. And it's such a vibrant neighborhood that there's tons to do either before or after the podcast.
Yeah, make an evening of it.
Absolutely make an evening. Bring friends, do something together, head out into the neighborhood before or after and experience the whole thing and laugh a lot with Debbie and Tommy. It's going to be a great night.
Fantastic. I can't wait. So I'm heading over the pond very, very soon.
You are with your book.
I've got a new book, Laugh More. So that's coming out on the 22nd. We're doing ours on the 28th. And I'll be putting up on my website, because I'm going right across the country, all the places that people, I'm going to Victoria, Vancouver, Calgary, Montreal, Toronto.
That's a real cross-country tour. My gosh, that's grueling.
Yeah. It's nice because the last book I did, Joy, came out at the end of COVID. And so there was no way you could really travel.
Yeah.
And I like doing book tours because you really get to meet everybody. And, it's kind of, just fun to be on stage and chat to everyone. So I'm back on tour, as they say. Yeah, really fun. All right. So we did this podcast about olive oil a year ago, same time.
Was it that long ago? My gosh.
But there's always stuff in the press about olive oil, especially I find this time of year. And maybe, we shouldn't be repeating this, but I am so passionate about it. And the front page of Bloomberg on the 27th of September said this, which I think is terrifying. Your olive oil may be unfit for human consumption. Now,
wow, that is quite a headline.
Yeah, I didn't make this up. So I've been doing this talk when people come to our retreats. They're sitting, especially last week. The olives are full. They look like grapes on the trees, and people are walking among the olive groves, and everybody's quite conscious. Plus, we have the olive oil bottles, on the table, as they always do.
Which you're using when you serve meals at the retreats.
Yeah.
Yes.
So everybody's, very jolly about it and everything. And then I do a little talk and they think it's going to be lots of fun. And then I kind of hit them where it hurts. And I tell them the ugly side of olive oil, which I think is so important, and teaching people to be their own warrior.
Do you think that I'm wondering if somebody who works at Bloomberg may have been at one of your retreats and put a bug in the ear of one of their writers or editors or something, because having been present at this talk about olive oil, it was interesting to me because when I was there with my partner, Patrick Biller, he became a a real advocate, like an activist about olive oil after that, and was telling friends and family. And, we've really only been using your olive oil since then, and maybe a couple of other. If we run out, I really read the labels, and it's all
Mm.
based on this kind of crusade that you've been on for several years
Yeah,
about
because
getting the word out.
it's also what's going on in the food industry.
In general, yes. I think that's an important part of the conversation, is that we need
Yeah,
to be much more aware of what we're eating. We need to be
exactly.
much more aware of how to read a label on
Yeah,
the
and
food
the
that we're
front of the
consuming.
label, not just the
Yes,
back.
both.
And it's not that I'm here to sell my oil, because we have the same people come back every year. So I'll explain that in a minute, because I only have about 4,000 bottles. We have 4,000 trees. So on average, we produce a bottle a tree.
Well, and everybody buys it by the case.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's your whole year's supply type of
That's
thing.
right.
So why is olive oil so good for you? So let's go back, as my kids would say, to the Stone Age. And if anybody's listening, I do suggest getting a pen and paper, because you might want to write some of this stuff down. So in the old days, when I was a child, the only olive oil really in the north of England, and probably in America and Canada, was bought from a pharmacy. And it came in
Mhm.
a little bottle, and it's what mothers use to unblock children's ears. So your mum would warm up the oil. I'm sure little Tommy had that done. And your mum would put a couple of drops in your ears to stop Tommy crying. But then, then the benefits of olive oil started to hit the press, and every good parent out there thinks, well, it's better than vegetable oil, which it is. I'm going to start swapping as much as I can and use olive oil. Absolutely
Mhm.
right. But then you have one of the fastest growing food products in the world going from zero consumption outside the Mediterranean countries
Yeah.
to hugely, hugely popular. I mean, if you go in your basic supermarket, you will have an entire shelf virtually of just olive oils from every price range, every type of oil from around the world.
So, can I ask a question just before you go further? Do you think that this sort of proliferation of olive oil versus other oils, because we know that they're not necessarily interchangeable. In fact, we read that on recipes online and everything, like, don't swap this. But do you think that's based on people getting an understanding in the public realm of the health benefits of olive oil versus other vegetable oils?
Well, I think it's both, because vegetable oils, it's a long time since those oils have ever seen a vegetable, are basically not a food anymore,
Right.
and again,
More of a lubricant than a food.
but they turn it. I mean, if you YouTube how they make vegetable oils, it's really quite scary. But we've been using olive oil since we know as far back as the Egyptians, because we
Yes.
see the olive trees on all the hieroglyphics and stuff.
Yeah, we learn things like that in school too, like in grammar school when you're learning like ancient history and things like that.
Exactly. There was
It comes
always
up.
olive. So, and we know that the core of the Mediterranean diet that is being proved over and over and over again as the healthiest diet is olive oil. So you're talking about everywhere, like from Lebanon to Spain, from Portugal to Italy, even actually outside Mediterranean countries. New Zealand is now producing some olive oil.
Yes.
So, and even BC, I think
Yeah, I've
there's
seen
an
that.
olive. Yeah, and of course California, but it's the core of the Mediterranean diet. Why? So olive oil, good extra virgin, and I'll get to that in a minute, has vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin K, monosaturated fat, and it's a plant polyphenol, which are the best polyphenols. So it's good for cardiovascular, good for neurogenerative. I can never say all these big words, but it's all round good for you for the way it is in the body. And in Italy, where I live, they go through at least, a couple. We go through a bottle a week,
Mhm.
and I put it on my skin. I take off my mascara with it, and I have a teaspoon every morning with some cayenne pepper. And you will never be bunged up if you have olive oil. We drizzle it on our soup. So what oil are we looking for? So I don't know if anybody can see this, but I'm holding up my bottle, and the first thing is organic. Now,
On the you're talking about the front
I'm
label
looking
here.
at the front of the label. Now, the reason organic is important with olive oil, because I know organic is always much more expensive when you're buying, say, a chicken. So a non-organic chicken will be about $7. An organic chicken will be maybe $30. And that's very hard for a family. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
You don't need to buy organic bananas, avocados, because you can peel them. So we've often talked with Jackie about the dirty dozen, the lean cuisine, the lean whatever.
15.
Yeah.
Not the lean cuisine. Lean cuisine was what you ate in the 80s when you were on a diet.
Exactly. So you eat about 6 boxes of them. But foods that you can peel, like a coconut, you don't really need, to go organic. But with
Right.
olive oil, it's different because when olives are picked, olives don't like water. So when we pick our olives, we go to the press pretty much within 24 hours because they sit in large crates type of thing. And they're rinsed very, very quickly. If we sprayed, which we don't, but if we sprayed, most of that pesticide will go into the bottle.
Right. Because
So,
it goes through the skin. It's a thin
yeah,
skin
so there's nothing to
fruit.
peel. Exactly. So
Yes.
it goes into the olive and into the bottle. So organic is important because you don't want to ingest those pesticides. And then
No.
extra virgin. What does extra virgin mean? Not Tommy at all. So extra
That
virgin
was
is the
me. That was me when I was, under
eight.
18.
Yeah. So extra virgin is the first press. So if you imagine an orange, you
Hmm.
squeeze an orange into a glass. That is real orange juice. Now, what
Yes,
is
of course.
left? Right? So it's extra virgin olive juice. So, but orange juice in a carton, they can say it's 100% orange juice, but it's been fortified. And you'll
Mhm.
see it's been fortified. Why are you fortifying it with more vitamin C? Because the nutrients are less now, because it's the leftovers that is making, the orange juice. So it's the pith, the rind. It's still orange juice.
All the pulp.
The same with olives. So an olive is a fruit. So you've squeezed that big juicy, the size of a grape, and what comes out of it, and it comes out as a very natural cold press process, is the juice. So it is the first press, meaning it has the highest nutrients in it. So
Sure.
if you've made this decision for you and your family to move from vegetable oils to olive oil, for the goodness of it, then you want the real goodness. You
Of course.
must buy extra virgin.
Well,
So,
I think there's also, is there not also something about olive oil? Uh, I hear this thing repeated in recipes and things about smoke point, like it
well,
has a
well, let,
low smoke point.
yeah, let's
And
get to smoke pointed. That's it's kind of a bit of a myth in a way, but let's get that to a second. But I want to stress that if you want the goodness that is so good for your heart, so good for your mobility, so good for inflammation, you must have extra virgin. Whether you're
Mhm.
cooking with it, putting it on a salad, whatever, that is the best quality olive oil. So now what they do is they take all that. Imagine what's left, like the orange rind. What's left here is the skin, the
Mhm.
inside, the stone, all that then outside the press of
Mhm.
where I am. We've got these local presses.
Mhm.
Machines come, big like oil tankers, and they suck all the residue, which is piled like manure, the size of a house. They go to every farm and they suck it all up. Then they take it to a proper factory. And
Mhm.
so you will have the remnants from many, many farms. And now they have to use a chemical process to get that drier material to get the juice out of it. So that is
Sure.
virgin olive oil.
Not
So
extra,
there's
but
less
very.
good. Yeah, so it's pretty common sense. Now there's even less goodness in it. Now you're left, what's left from that mulch is what they make olive oil.
Or tapenade.
Or tapenade, yeah, yeah. But the juice, what's left? Now, think about it. You will rarely see a bottle that says olive oil because for food companies, the word olive oil does not sell. So the
Right.
food companies now start adding words to make it look sexy. So
And to
this
make
is
up
a
for the fact that they can't say extra virgin,
they can't
right?
say extra virgin and they can't say virgin. So this is now you're 3 generations down. So they call it things like classico, you
Or
know,
pure.
or pure. Now,
Yeah.
pure in the food industry is one of the worst words. It's a
Oh.
beautiful word because it means 14%. So if you buy pure honey,
Mhm.
It's only 14%
Yeah. The rest
honey.
of it can be like
Yeah.
oil,
And
like corn oil or corn. What do they call
well,
it?
you think of Aunt
Corn
Jemima's.
syrup. Corn
Yeah.
syrup. Yeah.
You ask anybody who knows real maple syrup,
Hmm.
uh, 20 odd years ago, it was called Aunt Jemima's maple syrup. It's not
Yeah.
anymore. They're not allowed to because it's never seen a maple tree. It's called
Hmm.
Aunt Jemima's pancake syrup or whatever. So
Hmm.
those are the things you want to look at. Now, the other thing that drives me quite insane, my long list of things, is if you go into a fancy oil shop, what you need to be looking for, first of all, you need somebody in the shop who knows their stuff, and they will if it's a boutique kind of olive oil thing. But what you want to look at is the harvest date,
Hmm.
not the expiry or the best by date, because those are set by governments. I want to know if that's a real farm where that good, expensive olive oil is coming from. I want to know, when did you pick those olives? I
Hmm.
don't want a government telling me, oh, it expires in 2025 or 2026. I want to know, when did you pick it? So why don't they put it on? And most of them won't because they don't
Some
want you
will.
to know.
Very, very few, but the really good ones do, right?
Yeah. So and it's good to ask a guy in a shop if he's selling, expensive oil. Now, the other thing that is super important is do not buy olive oil in a clear container. You always needs to be in dark glass, or a tin is fine.
Hmm.
Because again, olive oil all oils reacts with sunshine and things like that. But then the worst thing ever, please don't buy it, is this dreadful word called light.
Sometimes it's not even spelled correctly. It's Lite.
Yeah,
That
well, they
drives
do
me
that. They do
crazy.
that to treat you. But the reason they say light is because there is not a woman on the planet, especially, who does not see the word light on a yogurt
Sure.
or an oil or
Yeah.
whatever.
She's picturing herself 3 pounds lighter.
Yeah, well, they say it must be lower calories. But here's a great fun thing to do. There are many light, and there's a very famous brand, which I know everybody's got in their kitchen. Um, Go in the supermarket and look at the calories on the back. The same calories for all oil. It's about 110, 120 a tablespoon, whether it's baby oil, car oil, almond oil, walnut oil, sunflower oil, or light oil. They are all. So, what it means by light is they have used the word light and they've lightened the oil, which means you've had another chemical process.
Yeah.
So we're all learning about ultra processed foods. So
Hmm.
here you're going from a food like olive oil, which is as wonderful as you can get, squeezing an olive, to the extreme of it. It's still called olive oil, that is now ultra processed.
It's fascinating that there's such a spectrum, that
Yes.
you can have something that is so pure, but also on the
Yes.
same shelf, 3 feet down,
Yeah.
something that is basically, as you said about this Bloomberg article, not fit for human consumption.
Exactly. So I have another sheet here. One of the biggest oil makers, begins with B. I don't want to get sued. Got sued for 7 million a few years ago because they said produce of Italy, and it was not. It was a mulch from everywhere, and they were in serious trouble. So one of the things to look on the bottle, and you'll often find, they always put it in mouse print, right underneath, and it'll say bottled in.
Mm.
That then if it's bottled in Italy, it is not Italian. I can promise you a
So the
million
olives or the
percent.
pulp or whatever could have come from anywhere.
Could have come from anywhere.
Mhm.
And so back to Bloomberg, who then says, so what is it?
And if it's not pure olive oil, what is it?
What are
What then
you
is it?
consuming?
We're just going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
If you're enjoying this podcast, please rate us, send in a review, and make sure you're subscribed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. According to Bloomberg, and what I have been saying for years, it is lampanade. And lampanade is an oil used in China to light your lamps with. You might
What?
as well put it in your car. So,
Wow.
so please Google these stories. And then there was a guy called Tom Mueller who wrote a book a few years ago called Extra Virginity: The Scandalous World of Olive Oil. The olive oil industry is making billions out of fake olive oil.
Mm.
Billions. There is more money being made from the corruption of olive oil than there is from selling cocaine, and it's legal. So at
Wow.
the
So,
moment, it's still legal. So
yes.
you have to do your homework because you're doing more harm than good type of thing. So Tom Muller's book was so successful. It was a bestseller, Globe and Mail, New York Times, London Times, that 2020, on American television, the documentary series,
Mhm.
did a documentary about it. And it was so successful. It's still there. I checked this morning. It's still up there. And it's called The Scandalous World of Olive Oil. It's now so successful, that documentary, taken from Tom Muller's book, that they're now making a movie about it. So this is not hyperboil. It's about taking a product that is so healthy and so good for you. And we all are trying to do the Mediterranean diet, which is a mixed diet. It's great for vegans. It's great for vegetarians. It's great. And of course, olive oil is for everybody. But the core of it, olive oil, where you think you're doing something good, you're being cheated.
It seems to me that there's almost two separate conversations regarding this product that is so controversial, this bad olive oil that's out there. There's the one, on the one hand, when you consume that, you're not getting the nutrients and you're not getting the benefits, the health benefits that you would be getting from extra virgin olive oil
Mm.
that's real and that's organic and pure. But then there's also the question of like, is that other product that's not fit for human consumption? When they say that, are they actually telling us that it's harmful?
Yes,
So there's one question, which is the absence of goodness, which is
yes.
not necessarily harmful. That could just be like a lateral flat
Just a
line,
waste of calories and a
just a
waste of
waste of
money.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
empty calories. But is it actually harming? Is it hurting us?
That is what they're saying. And of course, now we have this epidemic of young people.
I thought you were going to stop there. An epidemic of young people. There's too many.
Yeah, yeah, get rid of them all. No, but there's a problem of younger people getting cancers, especially things like colon cancer, which we didn't see 15
Hmm.
years ago. So there's all this mad research going on. I'm not saying it's fake olive oil.
But they're looking into it, is what you're
Well,
saying,
they're saying it's ultra processed food. So
right?
ultra processed
Generally.
food is not just going to a hamburger chain. It's so many different things.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And also the other thing is, my little theory is, my kids eat out, get takeout a lot. Now, restaurants are not using olive oil or good olive oil when they're doing a stir fry or when they're making a curry or when all these kind of stuff. They're using the cheapest oil in the kitchen.
These are for-profit businesses, and they're looking at their bottom line. And if it costs $1,000 to buy extra virgin olive oil that's organic
Yeah.
versus $10,
So we used to have takeout or takeaway or whatever you call it as a treat.
mhm,
I would get it for my kids on a Friday night. We'd go and get a curry or something. But it's now becoming the norm, that because they're all so busy, but they're not cooking. Now, if you're cooking, you're going to use better ingredients.
right.
It's a habit. So it's about, again, getting back in the kitchen, having the best quality you can afford of everything. So, that's my kind of take on all this. And I am so, so passionate about it because, and then people say to me, well, okay, so I can't buy your oil. You haven't got any left or whatever it is. I mean, you can now, but you might not be able to in a month. So where do you go? So
Mhm.
go to your local Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, Lebanese neighborhood because you can guarantee that Uncle Luigi sitting in the back is not eating that mass supermarket oil. He's having it sent over in a big container from his family in Greece. Greece makes great oil too.
Mhm. Yes,
So
there are some award-winning Greek olive oils.
yes,
Yes.
absolutely great. Now there's another thing. Very often, fancy Italian restaurants in North America or good pizza restaurants will put the oil on the table,
Right.
right?
Yes, yes. So you can drizzle it on your
So you
pizza.
can drizzle it because it's a very Italian thing. So a few
Mhm.
years ago, a restaurant that you and I have been to quite a few times had a very fancy tin of olive oil. And I knew the farm because it's not far
Oh.
from me in Tuscany. Very good oil, beautiful label. I
Mm.
put the oil on my pizza, and that was not their oil.
Wow. Because your palate is so attuned to it that you knew right
So I
away.
think a layman, if you'd have actually stopped to taste it on its own, which most people don't dip their finger in, I do. But by the time it's on a pizza, how would you know? So I called the manager over and I said, "This is not the oil that is in the tin."
Oh, I bet they loved you.
Yeah, well, it's one of the many places I'm banned from. So, but this was going on worldwide. They're refilling the containers with rubbish. But look at this, Tommy. Can you see? Look. Can you see this?
Wait, before you get to that, I just want to say something that people will relate to. There are tons of restaurants that people know take a Heinz ketchup bottle and then they take
Oh,
a generic, cheaper ketchup and refill that Heinz bottle with the generic, cheaper ketchup.
yeah.
And so this is the olive oil version of that old trick
Yes. So by law, this top, I can't, I would love to refill my bottles from containers of my oil.
because you
I could
have it.
pay
Yeah.
for every bottle. I cannot remove that. It's done in the mill or in the factory
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah. It's not something you can unscrew.
You can't take it off. So that law came in. So all oil now, all what they say, extra virgin olive oil. So those restaurants, if they don't have it, you need to complain. And going back to the ketchup, so 2 days ago, I told this story, and there was a girl sitting there, and she said, well, actually, my first job was in a restaurant, and my job was to fill those ketchup bottles. And
Yeah.
she said, there's always like quarter of an inch in the bottom, and there were worms in it. And
Oh
we
my
used
God.
to say to the owner, there are worms in the ketchup. And they would like, forget it, just keep filling them up.
Whoa. What?
I know.
That actually makes me feel like I'm going to be sick because I love ketchup.
The lesson is to be your own warrior and read. We've all been told over the last few years, read the back of the label. You need to read the front of the label. It's very important. So you're looking for, with olive oil, organic if you can, extra virgin and nothing else. And then you
Mhm.
asked about the smoke point. So this is a bit of a controversial thing. If you're a deep fryer,
Yes.
so for instance, when our chef here makes fried zucchini flowers, which we
Yes.
love,
Which I've had there and are
yeah, they're
amazing.
amazing. He does use a vegetable oil or peanut oil or something like that. But for frying an egg, for sauteing, for a stir fry, use the oil. And we have people buy the oil off us and they go, I've still got some bottles left. You shouldn't. You've got to consume it because the
Mhm.
more you consume, and remember now we're learning fat is good fat.
Sure. The right kind of fat. It's part of a balanced diet. I mean, you shouldn't eat all fat, just as you shouldn't
Exactly.
eat all proteins or all,
Yeah.
you have to have a balance.
Yeah. And the fresher. So our advantage is we sell our oil by a box of 12, and it's FedEx directly to your door. So you are tucking into our oil 3 weeks after it was on a tree.
Yeah,
So
it's
you
amazing.
cannot ever find the nutrients as strong as that.
And you know that because it changes color
It changes
over
color.
time.
When you get it, it's this chartreusey type of green.
Very
And
green.
then by kind of May, it'll be going
Mhm.
like a deep yellow, which is fine
More
because,
golden. Yeah.
yeah, a wine, remember, gets more
Of
robust.
course. Yes, yes.
Oil gets milder. So we say to people, when you get it, you're going to scream. I mean, we get so many incredible emails. It's that, it's the highlight for me. People
Mhm.
going, oh my God, we just got it. We opened it. So you want to, with the first bottles, just dip some bread in or dip some crudités in.
And it's quite peppery when you do that. Like it has a real zip to it, which is
Yeah.
so tasty.
Yeah, and you can
Yeah.
taste the land, just like a good wine. And
Mhm.
I know it's hard for people and times are hard, but if you think of a box of wine,
Yeah.
so Jackie and I are nutritional therapists. When we were in our 20s, early 20s, we used to get those boxes, which had the silver pillow inside with the wine in.
Oh, yes. The bladder. They call it the bladder.
The bladder. Well, I used to put, I'm sure I've told you this before, I used to put this behind my head with the tap. When I was in the bath, I would put it behind my head with the tap in my mouth and suck on it. Now, I was paying, what, $3 or something for that big bag of wine. So it's pretty obvious with wine. But if
Yeah.
you're going to pay $4 or $5 for a bottle of wine, you're going to have a hangover the next day because there's a lot of sugar in it and it's mostly fake. It's from millions of different wineries and stuff. It's just a mulch. If you're going to buy a beautiful bottle of wine for a special occasion and it's a treat, you can really enjoy it and savor it. Well, it's the same with oil, but oil is more important because, you're not drinking that much wine, hopefully. But with oil, it's part of your body.
Well, everything that you put in your body is. And I think when you look to food consumption as a practice, almost the same way that you look at something like yoga or other forms of exercise, it's a practice.
Mm,
Then you look at your budget for food differently. You look at
mm,
the types of recipes that you use differently.
Mm.
And I can tell you from personal experience, Patrick and I, as you know, are both vegan. Since going vegan, I had to do a lot of learning about the food that I was consuming. And in parallel lanes to learning about the vegan diet, I also learned about organic foods and the value of buying the best food that you can afford.
Yeah,
And like you say, it's not easy for everyone. There are food deserts in North America where you simply cannot find organic foods. And that is sad,
yeah.
but it's a harsh reality of life
Mm.
for some people. But if you are able to look at your overall budget of what you spend in your whole life on everything from clothes to peanuts, from soup to nuts, it is very important to sort of ask yourself the question, where am I prioritizing my bigger spends? Is it more
Yeah,
valuable to me? And what Patrick and I came to the conclusion of is that the price of the things that you put into your body should be the best that you can afford. And
absolutely.
like if you want to wear, crappier clothes, or if you want to go on a cheaper vacation, or if you want to have like, less of something else, let it not be the food that you
Mm.
are eating and putting into your body.
Mm.
So we prioritize, fairly big money in terms of our overall budget on the food that we eat. And really, it's not about spending less in our lives. It's about moving more money into that category and maybe living with a little less in a different category of our overall spend for what it costs to live our life.
Something that vegans eat a lot is hummus, right? We all love hummus.
Yes, well, we're forced to. It's the only vegan thing on a lot of menus. So
Right.
we eat a lot of it.
Yeah, I know. So have a look, go and look at hummus and go in the supermarket and look at the ingredients, and there'll be a lot of
Oh,
ingredients.
yes.
Now, go and buy a bag, of organic chickpeas. Cost
Yeah.
nothing. Soak them the day before, boil
Mhm.
them up the morning while you're making your coffee, simmer
Yeah.
them, with a bit of rosemary and salt and pepper and stuff. Zap them down with olive oil, a
Oh,
nice squeeze of
yeah.
lemon, a big drizzle of olive oil, or anything else you want to put in. You'll have enough hummus for the whole street. And
Yeah.
so it's just a lot of it is common sense.
It's the easiest thing in the world too. And
It
buying
is.
chickpeas in bulk from a local market.
Yeah.
And most big cities have local markets, and lots of small towns do too. And you can always get chickpeas. They're cheap as chips.
Yeah.
And to make hummus at home, which is so easy and so fast,
Mm.
versus buying this processed food that you find in the grocery store, which is actually rather expensive. You can spend $4 or $5 on a
Mm.
on a little tub of hummus. It's a great example, Debbie, because I do think that, we're reticent these days in our societies to put effort into very many things. And, effort is on a spectrum. You can spend a huge amount of effort making a very complex recipe for dinner, and you have to start making it at 2 o'clock and it's not served until 7. Or you can do something very, very simple and put a very little effort in. But
Mm.
the thing about ultra processed foods is it's zero effort. And nobody's asking you to make a monumental effort if you're a working mother who
Mm.
is a single mom trying to make ends meet and working 2 jobs. But a tiny little bit of effort might actually move the needle for you into a more healthy lifestyle, a more
Mm.
healthy diet.
We have a lot of people come through here, and the core, we're not a spa, we're not a pure health retreat, but we serve
You
real
are to
food.
me.
Yeah, but we serve real food. And I mean, we literally had 24 people, half men,
Mhm,
half women, leave yesterday morning.
mhm.
All of them said they felt better. And it's only a week. And it's not that
Oh,
they
yeah.
ate pasta every single day, but everything was real. Everything was, and I said, just take that home with you. You can afford, if you can
Yeah.
afford to come here, you can afford to not cut those corners all the time. So there was a picture in the paper yesterday of a woman who's done an experiment. 4 years ago, she took, I don't know if I can say it, but the famous hamburger.
Mhm.
She took one and she pinned the receipt because it had the date on it. Then she put the hamburger next to it, right?
Oh, yeah.
The receipt disintegrated. Did you see that? And the burger was perfect.
I have a real life story for you. I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but my friend Allison and her husband Jeff went to a holiday party. And at this holiday party, this guest who was at the party, it was very late. The party went until like 2 o'clock in the morning. And in the middle of the night, somebody had this brilliant idea to order in fast food. And it was from that restaurant. Let's say it's a restaurant with a Scottish name.
and and a couple of yellow arches.
It's not Scottish food, but it's a restaurant with a Scottish name.
We'll be in jail, you and me, soon.
All of these Scottish hamburgers arrived, and people ate them, and they were drunk and everything. Fast forward a year later, at the holidays again, my friend Jeff put on his special velvet holiday blazer
No,
to
I
wear
know what
to
you're
another
doing.
holiday party, and he reached into the pocket and pulled out the Scottish hamburger that he'd forgotten he'd put in a year before. Ask me, were there maggots in it? Did it smell bad? Was it exactly as it was when he put it into his pocket? Absolutely. His wife was horrified at that. Now, I think we have something called cognitive dissonance when it comes to food, because my first question when I heard this story was, have you eaten at that restaurant since? And the answer is yes. But like, still, if it was a full year, I'm sure you have a holiday dress that you only wear at the holidays because it's so like it's emerald green with satin lapels or something. He had a blazer that was the same thing. It was like red velvet or something. You would never wear it. Full year later, full calendar year from holiday season to holiday season.
When I was flying from London to Italy a few weeks ago, I got a croissant on the plane in a plastic, sealed bag.
Oh, yes, God,
And
I've seen those.
and the expiry date was 2027.
Oh my God, that's 2 years from now.
I still ate it. I was so hungry.
Well, listen, that's our time for today. So I want to wrap up by saying, I think this is such a relevant conversation to keep having. It was about a year ago you said that we talked about olive oil. Now more news is coming to light about the bad products. And I think it's worth talking about on this podcast so that people can live their best life.
Yeah.
I think it's unique to us that we managed to laugh our heads off while talking about terrible olive oil, but we did. So I use it so much in my daily life. I would say 8 out of 10 recipes that I make at home for Patrick and I to eat contain some measure of olive oil, whether it's a lot or just a little bit. So I think it matters. And thank you for bringing it up, because the Bloomberg story, I hope people look it up. Maybe we can do a link to it.
Yeah. And you obviously get the best you can afford. If you can, you get a consortium, and a consortium is going, if you've been on holiday and you've been to an olive farm, or you've seen,
Which is a great thing to do, by the way.
Our clients who come to us trust us. They come back every year. That's their olive oil for the year. It's in their cupboard, in their basement, and they've got 12 bottles, or you split a box with somebody, or you give it away, which is even more fun for Christmas. All the holidays are coming.
That's what
you
we
get
do.
it around the 5th of December. So
that's what we do.
We press, we bottle, and we ship. And I think it's, or go to find your local Portuguese, Greek, Italian area and go and ask them what's the best oil they've got.
Yeah.
Stay out of the supermarkets.
Well, thank you for bringing that up again, because I think it's really, as I said, it's a really relevant conversation.
And come and see us. Come and see us on the 28th.
Please come and see us on October 28th, and I will see you when you get to Canada. I'm very much looking forward to seeing you in person again. It's been a while. Until then, happy cooking with your olive oil.
Thank you, Tommy. Happy eating with your olive oil.
Hi, Debbie.
This podcast is distributed by the Women in Media Podcast Network. Find out more at womeninmedia.network.